Hi there, Malcolm here with my 410th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you a book review for 100 Best Video Games That Never Existed by Nate Crowley. And the blurb reads, after rashly tweeting he would dream up an imaginary computer game for every like received, Nate Crowley found himself on an epic quest to conjure up hundreds of entirely fictional titles, from 1980s hits like Beast Enders to modern classics like 90s goth soccer and Bing Crab Destiny. This beautiful retrospective takes the reader on a lavish tour of the most memorable and groundbreaking games never made. So this literally lists 100 games, that literally lists 100 of these games. However, it actually lists more, because after every fifth game, there's a double-page spread of other related games that aren't necessarily the best, that have a brief summary. So, for example, after number 20, Star Trek Be on the Bridge, which is a tense FMV game where you play as Jean-Luc Picard and must stop the Enterprise bridge crew totally losing the plot because a bee has gotten into the starship. And players were tasked with mustering Captain Picard's considerable leadership skills to stop his crew going completely mental due to a bee. And it has things like the year it would have come out of, the genre, the developer, and what platforms it was on, and you get a verdict at the end as well. So while Star Trek TNG itself managed to turn the exploration of space into something surprisingly pedestrian, Be on the Bridge managed the opposite, using FMV technology to turn a stray insect into a crisis. The format was still rough around the edges, but as proof of concept, it really shone. So all these like something you found in Amiga Action magazine or something. But following that, we then have a brief history of Star Trek games, and there'll be somewhere between 4 and 10 extra ones. There's only 4 in this one, so we got in 1990 Star Trek Who's Shat in the Turbo Lift, 1992, Star Trek Whose Turn Is It to Take Out the Bins, 1994, Star Trek Q's Big Recorder Recital, and 1996, Deep Space Nine, Who Put the Empty Milk Back in the Effing Fridge? Which reads, as Monochrome's landmark series moved to the new setting of TNG follow-up series Deep Space Nine, so too did its tone step up to a darker and more mature level. In this installment, infamous for its unflinching portrayal of human rage, peace in the Alpha Quadrant is nearly torn asunder by a row that escalates over the discovery of an empty milk bottle in the titular space station's staff fridge. The game threw players an enormous curveball at its midpoint when, at the same moment as an alien warfleet emerges from a nearby wormhole, Captain Sisko discovers that someone has pinched the slice of ham he was saving for lunch and completely snaps. And having a quick random flick through, just to give you an idea of some of the other wonderful games that never existed. Number 28, we have Leopard Exsanguination Tycoon. Breed and breed 6 different kinds of leopards to assuage the ever-growing thirst of a laconic tyrant in this pioneering, if oddly themed, real-time strategy game. Most missions ended with the player character's execution for failing to meet a quota, if the rebels didn't get them first. At 26, we have Pig falling out of a biplane music video maker. Combine dismal hip-hop backing tracks with pixelated footage of tumbling swine in this punishingly limited multimedia extravaganza. Nothing said funky and fresh less than ghostly sepia footage of pigs falling to their death. Regency Ogre Duels. Self-explanatory, that one. For those reptile enthusiasts, there's Lizard Designer Pro Millennium Edition. Rushed release with limited features, you can't even give the lizards tails, so they're just thin, dry frogs, really. Pub Fight Architect, Thomas the War Engine, at 56. Play as an apocalyptic war machine crafted from the bones of a hero and the wreck of a boy-faced train, as it fights for hope in a shattered world. Hunt down the undead trains of the Fat Controller across a savagely beautiful post-industrial wilderness. And get some great art with some of these. Bread Egg Redemption, at 63. Open world western where every character you encounter is inexplicably obsessed with eggs on toast. Before you could duel an opponent, they would insist you sit down and join them for a 15-egg cookout under the blazing noon sun. And for the artists, there's always Vin Diesel's Weasel Easel. If you like Vin Diesel and you're into weasels, this game will infect your soul like measles. At 76, we have Chuka Umuna's Bungee Sledgehammer Panic. Deceptively fun, if weirdly themed 8-bit multiplayer action featuring the former Shadow Business Secretary. Subtly brilliant physics modelling means that a missed swing or a glancing hit can result in uncontrollable spinning. And there's a screenshot of the game there for you. And I particularly liked First Person Shooter. Play a time traveller trekking across ancient East Africa to find and shoot the first person ever. And at number 90, War on Drugs. Brain-mashing VR experience, witness conflicts throughout history whilst under the simulated influence of a wide variety of narcotics. You simply choose your war, choose what drugs you wanted to experience on it, and got cracking. And more. There are far more I could have shown you, and so many that I really couldn't without getting banned. This was an absolute hoot. Not everyone tickled me, but there were plenty that did. And although some of these games were pretty horrific, and I'm very glad never to have played them, some actually did appeal to a bit. I thought, actually, That sounds like quite a good concept. I highly recommend this if you have a sense of humour and you're a fan of vintage games. They're split by decade from the 80s right up to the present day, or rather to when it was published in 2017. Picked it up on a whim and have no regrets. Booktastic. So, have you read Best 100 Video Games That Never Existed? What did you think about it? Which is your favourite one? Comment down below please, but as usual, if you have nothing nice to say then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe and other YouTube things if you want. Until next time, see you later.